The door opens, and a man walks in. He moves with the kind of confidence that comes from knowing the whole world is watching. Blue eyes, blonde hair, a face that has sold more movie tickets than almost anyone alive. This is Steve McQueen, the king of cool, the highest paid actor in Hollywood, the man who does his own stunts, races his own motorcycles, and answers to nobody. He is here to learn how to fight. Waiting for him is a smaller man, compact, intense, dark eyes that seem to look through you rather than at you. He wears a simple black shirt and loose pants, no uniform, no pretense. This is Bruce Lee. McQueen extends his hand. Bruce shakes it. "I've heard you're the best," McQueen says. Bruce doesn't smile, doesn't nod, just looks at him. "I've heard you think you're the best," Bruce replies. For a moment, neither man moves. Two alphas, two kings of their respective worlds. The air between them feels electric. Then McQueen laughs, a real laugh. The laugh of a man who recognizes himself in someone else. "I like you," McQueen says. "Good," Bruce replies, "because I'm going to break you down before I build you back up, and you're going to hate me before you love me." This is the beginning of one of the most unlikely friendships in Hollywood history. A friendship that would last until death. A friendship that would end with Steve McQueen carrying Bruce Lee's coffin. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. To understand this story, you have to understand who these men were before they met. You have to understand the roads they traveled to reach that gym in Los Angeles. Steve McQueen was born in 1930 in Indiana. His father abandoned the family before Steve was a year old. His mother was an alcoholic who left him with relatives and disappeared for years at a time. By the time he was a teenager, he had been in and out of reform schools, foster homes, and the streets. He joined the Marines at 17, not because he was patriotic, because he had nowhere else to go. The Marines taught him discipline, or at least, they tried to. McQueen was demoted 7 times for going AWOL. He spent 41 days in the brig for failing to return from a weekend pass. He was, by all accounts, completely uncontrollable. But he survived. More than that, he discovered something about himself. He discovered that he couldn't be broken, that no matter what the world threw at him, he would still be standing when the dust settled. After the Marines, he drifted, worked as a towel boy in a brothel, drove a truck, fixed motorcycles. Eventually, almost by accident, he found acting, and he was good at it. Not good in the classical sense. He couldn't do Shakespeare. He couldn't do long monologues, but he could do something no one else could do. He could be real. On screen, Steve McQueen was simply himself, and somehow, that was enough to make him the biggest star in the world. The Great Escape, Bullet, The Thomas Crown Affair, The Cincinnati Kid. Movie after movie, McQueen dominated the screen with nothing but presence. He didn't act. He existed, and audiences couldn't look away. But beneath the cool exterior, something was broken. McQueen trusted no one. He kept a gun under his pillow. He had affairs constantly, sabotaging every relationship before it could get deep enough to hurt him. He picked fights with directors, with studios, with anyone who tried to tell him what to do. He was, in his own words, a street kid who got lucky, and he never stopped expecting his luck to run out. This was the man who walked into Bruce Lee's gym in 1971. A king who didn't believe he deserved his kingdom. A fighter who had never learned how to fight. A man surrounded by people who wanted something from him. Bruce Lee's path was entirely different. Born in San Francisco in 1940, raised in Hong Kong, Bruce was a child actor, a street fighter, a cha-cha dance champion, and a philosophy student before he ever became a martial artist of note. His father was a famous Cantonese opera star. His mother came from one of the wealthiest families in Hong Kong. By all measures, Bruce had every advantage that McQueen lacked. But advantages don't guarantee an easy life. In Hong Kong, Bruce was constantly in trouble. He joined a street gang. He got into fights almost daily. His parents, terrified that he would be killed or end up in prison, sent him to America at 18 with $100 in his pocket and instructions to claim his American citizenship. He arrived in San Francisco, not knowing what he would do with his life. He ended up in Seattle, washing dishes, teaching martial arts in parking lots, and attending university to study philosophy. Philosophy was where Bruce's mind truly came alive. He devoured Krishnamurti, Alan Watts, Lao Tzu, Confucius. He began to see martial arts not as a collection of techniques, but as a path to self-knowledge. Every punch was a meditation. Every kick was a question about the nature of reality. He moved to Los Angeles in 1964. He opened a martial arts school. He taught his own system, Jeet Kune Do, which rejected traditional forms and embraced adaptation, flow, and brutal efficiency. Hollywood noticed him. He got small roles. He played Kato in The Green Hornet. He was good. Everyone knew he was good. But the roles didn't come because Bruce Lee was Asian. In 1960s Hollywood, Asian men were not leading men. They were sidekicks, comic relief, villains, props. Bruce was told again and again that America wasn't ready for an Asian star. He didn't accept it, but he couldn't change it either. Not yet. So he taught. He trained actors, athletes, businessmen. He charged enormous fees because he refused to be treated as a service provider. He was an artist, a philosopher. And if you wanted his knowledge, you would pay for the privilege. His students included James Coburn, Roman Polanski, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and eventually Steve McQueen. Their first meeting was arranged through mutual friends. McQueen had heard about this legendary martial artist who charged more per hour than most people made in a week. Bruce had heard about this legendary actor who did his own stunts and trusted no one. When they finally met, the air crackled with tension. Two alpha males. Two men accustomed to being the most dominant presence in any room. They circled each other like wolves from rival packs, sizing each other up, looking for weakness. McQueen was used to intimidating people. His blue eyes had a coldness that made studio executives nervous and directors compliant. He used silence like a weapon, letting it stretch until the other person felt compelled to fill it. Bruce was immune. He met McQueen's stare with perfect stillness, not aggressive, not submissive, simply present. The gaze of a man who had faced death in street fights, who had challenged masters of ancient arts, who had nothing to prove to anyone. For a full minute, neither man spoke. Then something unexpected happened. They recognized each other, not their fame, not their skills, something deeper. They recognized the hunger, the refusal to be categorized, the absolute conviction that they would succeed on their own terms or not at all. McQueen saw in Bruce the discipline he never had, the focused intensity that he admired but couldn't maintain. Bruce saw in McQueen the American success he craved, the proof that an outsider could conquer Hollywood through sheer force of will. They needed each other, not for what they could give, but for what they could see. Training began immediately. 3 times a week, McQueen would come to Bruce's home. They would train for hours, but it was never just physical. Bruce insisted on that. "Your body is already strong," Bruce told McQueen early on. "You don't need more strength. You need to understand why you want to fight." McQueen didn't have an answer. "Everyone wants to fight for a reason," Bruce continued. "Anger, fear, control. Until you understand your reason, you'll never be a true martial artist. You'll just be a strong man who knows some techniques." McQueen's reason, it turned out, was fear. Fear of being weak. Fear of being the abandoned boy again. Fear of losing everything he had built. He walked through the world like a man expecting an attack at any moment because, in his mind, an attack was always coming. Bruce understood this completely. "Fear is not your enemy," Bruce said. "Fear is information. It tells you where you're vulnerable. A master doesn't eliminate fear. He uses it." This was not what McQueen expected to learn. He expected punches, kicks, techniques. He expected to become a better fighter. Instead, Bruce was trying to make him a better human being. At first, McQueen resisted. He hadn't come for therapy. He hadn't come for philosophy. He had come for philosophy. He had come for therapy. But Bruce was patient. He had dealt with stubborn students before. He knew that the only way to change someone was to let them change themselves. So they trained. Punches, kicks, blocks. The physical work was real and intense. McQueen was an athlete, a natural mover, and he picked up techniques quickly. Bruce pushed him hard, harder than he pushed most students, because he sensed that McQueen needed to be pushed, that beneath the Hollywood polish was a man who had grown soft, who had surrounded himself with yes-men, who hadn't been truly challenged in years. Again, Bruce would say, after McQueen executed a technique, "I just did it. You did it with your body. Now do it with your mind." Again, they would repeat the same movement dozens of times, hundreds of times, until McQueen was drenched in sweat, until his muscles screamed, until his ego finally let go, and he could simply be present in the motion. "Now you're learning," Bruce would say. "Now you're not Steve McQueen, movie star. Now you're just a man trying to understand himself." This was the real training, not the techniques, the dismantling of the false self. But between drills, Bruce would talk about emptiness, about water, about the illusion of the self, about how the greatest warriors were the ones who didn't need to fight. McQueen listened, at first with skepticism, then with curiosity, then with something approaching hunger. Nobody had ever talked to him like this. In Hollywood, everyone wanted something. Producers wanted his name. Directors wanted his compliance. Women wanted his fame. Nobody wanted to sit with him and discuss the nature of reality. Bruce wanted exactly that. Their conversations went late into the night. They talked about death, about legacy, about what it meant to be alive. "I don't know how much time I have," Bruce said once. "None of us do. But I know this. I will not waste a single day. Every moment is either growth or decay. There is no standing still." McQueen had never met anyone who lived with such intensity, who treated every conversation as if it might be the last. It changed him, slowly, almost imperceptibly, but it changed him. He started meditating. Not because Bruce told him to, but because he wanted to. He started reading philosophy, Krishnamurti, Alan Watts, the same books Bruce had consumed years earlier. He started, for the first time in his life, to examine himself honestly. "You're different," his wife Neil told him. Calmer, more present. She was right. Something was shifting. Their friendship deepened beyond training. They rode motorcycles together through the Los Angeles hills, pushing their bikes to dangerous speeds on winding canyon roads. For both men, speed was a kind of meditation, a way of being so completely present that past and future disappeared. They had dinner parties where Bruce would cook Chinese food and McQueen would tell stories about his outlaw youth. They debated philosophy late into the night, disagreeing loudly about Krishnamurti's ideas on thought, then laughing at their own intensity. Bruce introduced McQueen to the world of martial arts films. They watched Shaw Brothers movies together, Bruce explaining the techniques, the history, the artistry that Western audiences missed. McQueen was fascinated. He had always loved action, but this was something else. This was movement as poetry. McQueen introduced Bruce to the world of racing. They went to tracks together, and Bruce watched with amazement as McQueen pushed cars to their limits. Speed was another language they both spoke, another way of understanding the relationship between fear and control. Their children played together, their families intertwined. Linda Lee and Neil McQueen became friends. The two couples would spend weekends together, the men disappearing for hours to train or ride while the women talked and watched the children. It was, by all accounts, the most normal friendship either man had ever had, and perhaps that was its greatest gift. For two men who lived extraordinary lives, the ordinary pleasures of true friendship were revolutionary. McQueen, who trusted no one, trusted Bruce completely. "He's the only person I know who has no agenda," McQueen told a friend. "He doesn't want my money. He doesn't want my connections. He just wants to share what he knows. I've never met anyone like that." Bruce felt the same way about McQueen. In Hollywood, Bruce was often treated as a curiosity. The fast Chinese guy, the martial arts expert. People respected his skills, but didn't see him as an equal. McQueen saw him as an equal. More than that, he saw him as a teacher, a master, someone whose approval mattered. For Bruce, who had spent years being dismissed by Hollywood, this recognition was profound. They pushed each other, challenged each other. When Bruce doubted himself, McQueen was there to remind him of his greatness. When McQueen fell back into his old patterns of distrust and isolation, Bruce was there to pull him out. "You're not that scared kid anymore," Bruce told him once. "You have to stop living like you are." McQueen couldn't hear that from anyone else. From Bruce, he could hear it. In 1971, Bruce left for Hong Kong to make movies. Hollywood wouldn't have him, so he went where he was wanted. He would become the biggest star in Asia. He would make The Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon. He would conquer the world from the other side of the globe. McQueen supported him completely. "Go," he said. "Show them what you are. Then come back and burn Hollywood to the ground." They stayed in touch through letters and calls. McQueen followed Bruce's success obsessively. Every news item, every box office report. He celebrated Bruce's victories as if they were his own. And when Hollywood finally came calling for Bruce, when Warner Brothers offered him the lead in Enter the Dragon, McQueen was one of the first people Bruce told. "I'm coming home," Bruce said. "I know," McQueen replied. Enter the Dragon was going to change everything. Bruce as the lead in a major American production. Finally, after years of rejection, the recognition he deserved. McQueen planned to be at the premiere. He planned to stand beside his friend as Bruce claimed his rightful place in American cinema. He never got the chance. On July 20th, 1973, Bruce Lee died. He was 32 years old. The news hit McQueen like a physical blow. He couldn't believe it. Bruce was the healthiest, most vital person he knew. Bruce was going to live forever. Bruce was going to change the world. And now Bruce was gone. McQueen flew to Hong Kong for the funeral there, then to Seattle for the American service. He was one of the pallbearers. He carried the coffin of his best friend. Photographs from that day show McQueen's face, devastated, hollowed out, the cool facade completely gone. He had lost people before. His childhood had been nothing but loss. But this was different. "Bruce was the one person who helped me understand myself," McQueen said later. "Without him, I don't know who I am anymore." The years after Bruce's death were difficult for McQueen. He made movies. He raced cars and motorcycles. He married and divorced. But something was missing. The center wouldn't hold. He thought about Bruce constantly. He kept training in Jeet Kune Do, working with Dan Inosanto and other students Bruce had certified. He kept a photograph of Bruce in his home until the day he died. "He saved my life," McQueen told an interviewer in the late 70s. "Not in a dramatic way, but he taught me how to be present, how to stop running from myself. I was on a path to self-destruction, and Bruce showed me another way." In 1979, McQueen was diagnosed with mesothelioma, cancer caused by asbestos exposure, probably from his years of racing and working on cars. It was terminal. He didn't tell anyone at first. He kept working, made his final films, tried experimental treatments in Mexico. On November 7th, 1980, Steve McQueen died. He was 50 years old. Among his possessions, they found letters from Bruce Lee, training notes, photographs of the two of them together. McQueen had kept everything. Two kings, both gone before their time, both leaving behind legacies that continue to shape their fields. What was it about their friendship that mattered so much? Perhaps it was simply recognition. Two outsiders who had climbed to the top of their worlds, who understood the loneliness of that climb, who found in each other a reflection they couldn't find anywhere else. Perhaps it was the teaching. Bruce gave McQueen tools for understanding himself that no one else could have provided. And McQueen gave Bruce something equally valuable, the unconditional respect of American royalty. Perhaps it was simpler than that. Perhaps they were just two men who liked each other, who made each other laugh, who could sit in silence without awkwardness or ride motorcycles without needing to explain why. True friendship is rare in Hollywood. True friendship is rare anywhere. When it appears, it should be recognized for what it is, a kind of miracle. Bruce Lee and Steve McQueen had that miracle for a few brief years. Not long enough. It's never long enough, but long enough to change both of them. Long enough to leave a mark that neither death could erase. McQueen once said, "Bruce taught me that being tough isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how much truth you can face about yourself." Bruce once said, "Steve is one of the few people who understands what I'm trying to do. Not the fighting, the becoming. The becoming, that's what it was always about. Two men becoming more than they were, and then, too soon, alone again, but never quite alone. Because the people we love don't really leave us. They become part of us. Their words echo in our minds. Their lessons shape our choices. Their presence lingers in the spaces they used to fill. Bruce Lee lives in everyone who refuses to be limited by others' expectations. Steve McQueen lives in everyone who survives a broken childhood and builds something beautiful from the wreckage. And somewhere, perhaps, they're riding motorcycles through hills that never end, talking about fear and water and the strange miracle of being alive. Two kings, one friendship, forever cool.